And they assured me that they had no information that would change my ability to be able to say that no one, in response to Angie's question, on my staff was involved in this matter. That was obviously a lie. And the emails that I saw for the first time yesterday morning when they were broken in, I believe, the Bergen Record story, proved that that was a lie. There's no justification for that behavior.
All right, folks, welcome back. Hour number 2 of the Steve Malzberg Show. Christie earlier this morning in Trenton, New Jersey, answering questions. 2-hour press conference, almost 2 hours, a statement, and then lots and lots of questions about Bridgegate, where, of course, the George Washington Bridge, the most traveled bridge in the country, I've come to learn since this all started, had traffic diverted from an entry point and took traffic through the streets of a city called Fort Lee, New Jersey, and it wreaked havoc. And the speculation was this was political payback because the Democratic mayor of Fort Lee didn't support Christie. Christie saying today, although the emails released yesterday indicate that Bridget Ann Kelly, his deputy chief of staff, was involved in this kind of action. He fired her. He also parted ways with Bill Stepien, who was his campaign manager and confidant, and he also had him withdraw his consultancy for the Republican Governors Association, which Christie heads, and also told him to end his bid for New Jersey State Republican Party chairman. And Christie insists he knows nothing, and I thought he did if he's telling the truth. Under that premise, I think he did a masterful job. Let's get an opinion from an expert, much more qualified than I, Larry Sabato, director of the University of Virginia Center for Politics and author of The Kennedy Half Century. Hello, Larry.
Hey, how are you, Steve?
Fine, fine. Thanks for coming back. Appreciate it. So, what's your take on what we saw today and heard today from Chris Christie?
Well, it just goes to prove that you don't have to be an expert, because I agree precisely with what you said. This was an impressive performance. There's a reason why most public officials don't do 2-hour press conferences. In fact, some of them don't do press conferences at all because they can't stand up to withering press fire. Well, Christie handled every question beautifully, in my view. Now, I agree with you. Obviously, he has to be telling the truth. I didn't get any indication in the press conference that he wasn't. In fact, he seemed to come across in the assured manner of someone who's telling the truth. And why would I set myself up as a judge of that? Well, I've been a teacher for 38 years. I've gotten pretty good at telling who's being truthful and who isn't.
Right, beyond the dog ate my homework, I guess.
Exactly. Grandma had a stroke.
Yeah. All right, so let's assume he impressed and he told the truth. When push comes to shove, if his ambition is to run for political office higher than the governorship in New Jersey, and he runs for president, let's assume he gets to that pinnacle of Hillary versus Christie, and let's take it from there. I think because he did so well, and again, all things being equal between now and then, and because Hillary, what difference does it make? Never addressing the letter that was sent by the ambassador just weeks or days before the attack, when he requested more security. She never took responsibility for that. Said she never saw the letter. Never fired anybody for not acting on that. I mean, two completely opposite ways of handling two different scandals.
Yeah, well, actually, with the Clintons, you can broaden it out to several decades. That's why I don't think they'll be too inclined to raise it. Actually, I think Christie will face more criticism in the Republican primaries. Probably his opponents will air an ad or two saying, hey, if you can't run your own governor's office with the people you call your family and your own campaign manager, how are you going to run the Oval Office where the staffs are so much bigger and the problems are more complicated? That's where they would use this, I would think, with effect. Now, whether it would actually prove damaging is another question, and we're too far away from the election to know.
But you don't think Hillary would bring it up because of what I just said, in part, the way she handled Benghazi and the plethora of other scandals dating back?
Yeah, there are a lot of scandals. I think the Clintons are hesitant and should be hesitant to raise questions of credibility unless they're trying to level the playing field. Maybe they would do it for that reason. I don't think it'd be particularly effective. That's not how and why people choose presidents. There are lots of other factors that are far more important.
And does it matter what happens to the people around him, again, as long as he's telling the truth here? I mean, David Wildstein, the Port Authority choice that he had appointed, supposedly a high school friend, but he poo-pooed that today a little, Christie. Wildstein went before the Assembly, I believe, or the Senate in New Jersey today, and took the fifth, and then was held in contempt for not answering the questions, which I'm not sure how you do that if someone takes the fifth, how you hold them in contempt. But nonetheless, that happened. And, of course, who knows what Bridget Ann Kelly might eventually say. But again, no matter what happens to them, as long as Christie is telling the truth today and is clean, you don't see any real repercussions, correct?
Not really, because these aides would have to present hard proof that Christie was not telling the truth. Look, I have no idea. Maybe they have hard proof, but I kind of suspect they don't. And this does sound like the kind of cockamamie scheme that a bunch of staffers and political consultants would dream up. I hate to say it, but I've actually seen it many, many times in both parties. These people are often out of control, and the office holder doesn't even know it. And they're more intoxicated with the office holder's power than the office holder is.
All right, we're talking to Larry Sabato, director of the University of Virginia Center for Politics and the author of The Kennedy Half Century here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Let's look ahead to 2014, which we're in, oddly enough. And, the game plan here, and I haven't heard, and it's working to an extent because I guess Christie's thing has helped it along, but, they've changed the narrative willingly or unwillingly. It's now, minimum wage. It's, of course, unemployment benefits, and it's Christie. But the Republicans definitely are going to run on Obamacare, and the Democrats, I guess, are going to run on, the populist unfair, society we live in where people can't make a living wage and the evil Republicans won't raise the unemployment insurance. So how much of a inroad do the Democrats make with those two arguments compared to the Republicans' theme of Obamacare is a disaster?
Here's what it's all about on both sides: motivating the base. Presidential election, you're going to have 70% turnout to vote. In a midterm election, you're lucky if it's 40%. So you've got to get your people out to vote. It's primarily a base election. Obamacare has the Republicans energized, and I don't think that'll change. I think that's something that is going to be a theme all the way to November. The Democrats are trying to come up with a theme or two that will energize their base to the extent that Republicans are energized. I just issued an analysis of what I think is going to happen. It's January. I'm perfectly prepared to be wrong, but I think Republicans will pick up seats in both houses. It's the sixth-year election, the sixth year of a two-term presidential administration. These elections are often a disaster for the White House party. It's not that they're going to lose a ton more seats. They lost as many as they could, I think, back in 2010, at least in the House of Representatives. But there's no way the Democrats are going to gain the 17 seats they need to take back control of the House. And in the Senate, the real question is how many seats are the Republicans going to pick up? I've got them right now at 3 to 4. It doesn't take that much of a wave in October to get them to 6, which is the magic number to take control.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be very exciting and very interesting, and we look forward to talking to you along the way, Larry. Thank you very much, sir.
Always enjoy it, Steve.
Thank you
very much.
Larry Sabato, director of the University of Virginia Center for Politics and author of a great book, which we talked about with him in a previous interview. If you haven't gotten it, get your hands on it, The Kennedy Half Century. Very interesting stuff. Okay, when we come back, we're going to switch gears just a little bit, and we're going to talk about MSNBC. Who's running that place? Well, there's one person out there who wrote a piece for National Review who says it's Rachel Maddow, who not only runs the Rachel Maddow Show, but the network. We'll talk about it when we come back right here on the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.